Hello, my fellow weebs. This is Enestor. I know, we're not with Durka. Yeah, Durka posted a video earlier about what's going on with the seasonal wrap-up. Unfortunately, I am still incredibly sick right now. I'm gonna apologize if I make a bunch of cuts during this video because I might have to excuse myself to, make myself feel better and not die. But I thank you guys so much for putting up with me. Also, if you guys could, make sure to hit that like button. It really does mean a lot for this kind of video. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button. As well as, I know Durka did a video. There will be a card right here for that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to briefly talk about some anime that we've already reviewed. So we already did Owari Monogatari. That'll be in the description card as well. We did Gamers all the way on JTune's channel. So if you guys could go to his channel, his link will be in the description below. Probably the first link because he decided to put us as his first link in his description for that video. We're going to put him in there. You guys go check it out. It'll also have his link to the video that had us on it where we discussed gamers into a very in-depth topic. But there's that, and as well as we did Boku no Hero, My Hero Academia. We did that last Saturday, I believe. Card right here as well as description below to watch that series review, as well as we did the first season, but the more important one is the second season. I gave my 2 cents, as well as the Owari Monogatari 2 cents, as well as the Gamers 2 cents. So there isn't much left of this summer 2017 anime wrap up that I have to do. The first one I'm just going to go through chronological that I have on my anime list. Shout out to you guys. So the first one we're going to talk about is Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss. Wow, this was I looked at this picture and I was like, this is gonna be weird. I read the synopsis, I was like, I'm not too sure if I'm gonna enjoy this kind of show. But lo and behold, it really piqued my interest the first episode, and then it just kept piling up with the drama, the suspense, the mystery to go along with it. The fact that it ended the way it did is so prime. The soundtrack on this episode, on the season, is actually so good. Not a big fan of the ending sequence. Well, that's not here nor there. We also want to put a huge shout out to the characters and the animation, because that stuff was prime. The storytelling was so good. I felt like there was no wasted moments throughout the entire series. Well, maybe a little here and there, but when you have awkward little kids, or when you have a boy who seems like he's going to be in puberty soon, it seems like you would need to make that kind of subtle joke. But anyways, aside from those kind of moments, it tended to be very cohesive, tended to be very fluent with all its motions, so I really appreciated that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. If you guys haven't, I'd suggest you guys do watch it. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It is amazing. It was probably my favorite of the entire season during this one. Next, we got Surezuri Children, which is a compilation of short stories of romances amongst high school kids. I thought it was cute. I thought it was funny. It was not something that was super in-depth, but it was something that I would use when I needed a little break from work, or when I needed to just take a little study break. I'd watch it, and they probably had the funniest moments in this season, at least personally, actually behind Aho Girl. But this one had a good amount of different scenarios of romance. Once again, it felt there were some parts that I felt really cringe-worthy towards, where they decided, like, they are children, they are high school kids, they don't know how to act properly. So there'd be some situations where I'm just like, why are you doing this? This scene makes no sense. But for the most part, they did a really good job of portraying all the different kinds of loves that could happen during high school. Not even in high school, but in real life in general, except for, Anyways, that show was very funny, it was lighthearted, so that's what I liked most about it. I get a 7.5 out of 10 for that one. Next, we're going to talk about Yukoso Shinjuku. Okay. Yukoso Jitsuri, Classroom of the Elite. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm too sick for this nonsense. So, I am very heavily thinking that this thing was way too overhyped for its own good. It had the worst pacing issues I could ever imagine. It had a good idea. I'll give it that. It had a really good idea, really good music, really clean animation. and a really good foundation for its idea, but its execution is what pissed me off the most. The fact that it took a lot of time to get through any sort of conflict, a lot of time to... Like, the characters themselves won't act like actual high school students. The biggest evidence is during the last camp arc where the girls excluded all the guys for doing this. For goodness sake, we all know, like, at least personally, what I found that girls don't trust girls more. So, that's my 2 cents. I think that this anime squandered a lot. So it set itself up for a season 2. I'm not too sure if it'll get a season 2. In all honesty, it set itself up for that, as well as Made in Abyss. I really hope that gets a season 2 because it set it up even better than what Classroom of the Elite did. But it set itself up for the second season pretty well by introducing all the characters at this point. I felt like this entire first season was just set up. It didn't really do anything. We finally got a little bit of answers, but we just got left with a huge amount of questions. But the characters themselves, I really liked all the characters. I'll give them that. I loved Ayano Koji the best. His backstory and the fact that the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, that was wild. That was wild. But yeah, this show was good. I'll give it that, but it didn't do too good. It squandered a lot, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. So I hope that season 2 actually does better. Next, we've got ourselves Kakegurui. Kakegurui, talk about hype. That was a very hype show, I'll give it that. But at the same time, Durka talked about it a lot. I'm also going to put a card for our Kakegurui episodes. So the biggest problem that we had with it is the fact that we sort of knew what was going to happen basically every single time after we saw it happen twice with Jabami. So she knows exactly how to play every single game. She's like, oh, I know how this is gonna go. This is how you fell into my trap card. It seemed to be the same pattern over and over and over unless the president interfered. Except for the final bet. But that was neither here nor there. That was an intense final moment. I was like, oh my goodness, the animation was so clean. So clean. The characters, they were crazy. They were crazy. And that's what I liked about it a lot. As well as, you know, gambling is pretty cool too. The characters and their lack of development is not so great. But, you know, the character development, except for Sato or whoever the main guy was, I can't remember his name. It was too irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But yeah, this anime did have a good idea. It's set itself up nicely for a season 2. There are a lot of questions that I want answered. I would hope that it gets a second season, but I know it has a manga, so I can read it if I really want to, unlike Classroom of the Elite, which I think is a light novel, so that's going to be slightly better. But do I feel the temptation to really read Kakegurui? Not really. But did I enjoy it? Yes, so that's why I'll give it about a 6.5, probably. No, I'll be nice. I'll give it a 7 for this kind of series. Next, well, I gotta mention Fate Apocrypha. I'm not done. That's for next season. Aho Girl. Oh, this was a funny anime. This was a really funny anime. The main character, Yoshiko. Oh my goodness. I really like comedy. I think that's probably one of my favorite genres for anime. It's because of the fact that I can just sit back and just laugh and have a good time. Wow. And it's anything, anyone can get behind it at that point, as long as they are okay with reading subtitles. But once you can get past the fact that you need to read subtitles and you accept the main heroine as a complete idiot, then you start enjoying the show a lot, because she does some really weird scenarios and really weird interpretations of anything. The fact that she's able to convince a gangster to join her non-existent clan is so freaking funny, and this guy was so adamant about staying loyal. And there are a bunch of funny scenarios with Akun and a whole bunch of the rest of the cast. So I highly suggest, if you guys are into laughing hysterically, I'd give it to you guys for that much. I liked it a little bit. I liked it a lot more than Kakegurui and Classroom of the Elite, so I'd give it a 7.5. 7.5, that would be seeming about fair. Next we got Koi to Uso. Oh my goodness. This is the definition of squandering potential. Oh my god. So it takes a really good concept of the decreasing population, it introduces an idea where the government decides to fix this problem. And they do it in a really scientific way that I still can't figure out as to what happened. But they did it. It was a very good foundation, very good idea. The character, the interactions, they were all set up. But what did they do? They fell into common tropes. They all fell into common tropes. That was the biggest squander I have seen. Actually, no, Sword Art Online was the biggest squander in the ordinal scale. That was a squander, but I'm not going to go into that because this is not an SAO ordinal scale review, because that was spring 2017 and I liked it, but it was a squander. But that's not what we're talking about. Koito Uso, I like the art. I liked it a lot. I'll give it that much. If you're into shoujo anime. It also did... If you're into the cookie cutter romances, go for it. You'll like it. But it just squandered so much potential. So much potential. I think its ending sequence was my favorite of all the season. So I'll give it that much. But it just squandered. I dropped the anime after episode 9. I finally couldn't handle it anymore. I thought I was 3 episodes short of actually finishing it. And I couldn't find the will to actually finish it. So... 6 out of 10. It had a beautiful first episode. I'll give it that much. Beautiful first episode, but then it just went poopy. I don't know how it ended, but there's that. Then we got ourselves... I'm scrolling through this. I think that we got ourselves... Yeah, all we got left is Recreators and one other called Shingeki no Bahamut. So Recreators, as I left a spillover from last season, it was an original, so I was very... I wasn't too sure how to feel about it, but it came pleasantly surprising, as well as the fact that it didn't, the creator of Black Lagoon helped create one of the characters, which is probably one of my favorite mangas out there right now. But the creation, this idea, I don't think has been done before, bringing 2D to 3D, where the 2D characters tried to possibly destroy the world, and them trying to go against a singular villain that is super overpowered, and I can't spoil it, but she becomes superpower Altair, and it just, this anime didn't follow this whole cookie cutter business, which was nice, but it also didn't introduce anything super new, if that makes sense. Like, it introduced different ways of tackling problems, but in a very normal setting. Like, for the most part, it was, in most action animes, it would be like, okay, I'm the single hero, I will go finish him off. But this one was like, as a group, we gotta make a plan, execute this plan, and we might have a chance of winning. And it's sort of new, it's sort of nice to see. The animation was really crisp, the soundtrack was amazing, probably one of my favorite soundtracks of the season. I don't know for spring season, but definitely for this season, it did a really good job behind it. It was one of my favorites. And the characters... the characters, except for Altair, I was not the biggest fan of. Actually, I like Blitz a lot. I like Blitz a lot. Who was the old gut detective man. But for the most part, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the characters. It didn't seem like they stuck to their common tropes that they were introduced with. They kept changing, and I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought that as a 2D character, you'd stick to that 2D trope, because your creation, at least your creator, shouldn't have written anything differently, so how you were before shouldn't have changed as it progresses, if that makes sense. So that was one of my biggest complaints about it. But nonetheless, the action scenes looked super clean, the soundtrack was super clean, the development of the characters, the interactions between the characters were pretty cool as well. Some of them were pretty cringeworthy, but you know, not everything can be perfect. So I'd give it about a 7.5 out of 10 for that. And last but not least, we've got ourselves Shingeki no Bahamut Virgin Soul, which is a sequel to Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis. So if you guys haven't watched that first season, I highly suggest you guys do, because that anime actually was really good. I really liked it, and the fact that its sequel did a really good job. It did a lot of things right. it did a lot of things right, but it did some things that were weird. I'll give it that much. It's sort of, so it's based on a game, but you know, as a complete game, they were trying to fit it all into 24 episodes. So there was a lot of pieces missing and a lot of rushing that was going through it. So that was my biggest complaint that was coming from it, as well as some of the interactions. It sort of felt unfinished when the anime was done. It felt that it was just left open-ended, which I understand that's the way that they've usually been going so that they can make a sequel. I'm pretty sure this one is probably going to get a sequel, knowing how popular this game is. So it set itself up, but I'm not too sure if it'll actually get a sequel based on what they did on the last episode. But can't spoil too much. But you know, this anime introduced a new main character comparatively to the last season, to the first seasons. But it introduced a new evil, but it also had probably one of the biggest plot twists in all of the season so far. So I had to give it to that. There was a lot of people. I really liked all the characters. I didn't hate a single character, which I thought was really surprising because I'm really nitpicky with characters, but I liked all of them. They all had their positives and negatives. There were some that were irrelevant, so I just couldn't like and couldn't hate, but I didn't hate any characters, which is a first for me. But it did a lot of things right. It was very under the radar, I believe. Like, it was overshadowed by Boku no Hero, it was overshadowed by Recreators, it was overshadowed by a lot of different animes that were coming out while it was currently going out. But it did a really good job. If you guys haven't watched it, I would highly suggest you do, because I gave it an 8 out of 10, because I liked how it took from the previous season and developed it into a lot more than what it was. Also created something of nothing with its character interactions, which I thought was the coolest thing, because I honestly would have never guessed a Saint would be in its where fall so low, go so high, go so low, go so high. But yeah, that was everything that I had to say of the summer 2017 anime season. I don't think there's anything that I missed. And Durka did the No Game No Life Zero review, which will be right here as a card, or actually an annotation right here. Because if you guys did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button. It really does mean a lot. Comment down below what you thought of this anime season, as well as what do you think about my thoughts about it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to see more content from me as well as Durka. I know that I missed it. I'm surprised that I didn't have to excuse myself once during this entire thing, so give me a like for that one. Description down below as well. Please go check out Jay, because that one was really, we did a really in-depth gamers review for that. So I actually might just put that on the screen right now. So without further ado, this has been Enestor, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.